This is Hysteria, the podcast for people who don't need to plagiarize Wikipedia in order to define weaving.
Yikes.
That's kind of a deep cut from the news this week, but it was like the funniest detail in any of the stories.
We enjoyed these stories a lot.
It's, we're going to do a little bit of an extra large news segment this week because things happened when we were on our break that it would be cool if we didn't have to talk about them or think about them anymore, but the things that happened have long-term implications, and so we got to talk about them. So we're going to talk about some kind of fun stuff first. Not fun, I guess media criticism. So it's fun to use your brain, I guess. I don't know. Okay, so the weaving Wikipedia thing is a reference to Neri Ackman, an academic and celebrity former MIT professor who was busted this past week for plagiarizing sections of her dissertation from Wikipedia.
Of all places.
Why do we care? Okay, why do we care? I guess if you were in academia and you don't plagiarize, that is a super annoying thing for a celebrity MIT professor to have done on her dissertation. I get that. But the reason that we care and the reason that it's news is because her husband, billionaire crybaby Bill Ackman, was one of the voices and Harvard donors leading the charge to get Harvard President Claudine Gay fired over charges of plagiarism. Yeah, so weaving is defined as a land of contrast. No,
Can you imagine? Some people should not have access to the internet.
I just think that's so lazy. And the original Business Insider piece on Ackman's instances of plagiarism has some really funny cutting quotes from other academics who are like, well, if she understood then she would be able to come up with her own sentence. It's so funny and bitchy in the nerdy way that only academics can be. We'll get more into Bill Ackman girl bossing too close to the sun later. But we got to get into a story that is a little bit less like hypocrisy and a little bit more like
evil villain.
Yeah, evil villain stuff. So Alyssa, take it away.
Okay. So Erin, when you and I saw this story start to percolate, it felt sus. So we're here to talk about why going into the Trump trials and the heat of election season, it's time to, as my old boss Dennis McDonough would say, measure twice, cut once when reading the news. So when we see stories like this one, we have to remain a little skeptical until there's actual proof presented, which in this case, there doesn't seem to be, at least not yet. Not yet. We're saying not yet. The reporting we're reading and that we're about to talk about is based solely on the claims of one person. There is no investigative journalism currently backing up the following story. So really something special. A lawyer for one of the defendants charged along with former President Donald Trump in the Georgia election interference case said in a court filing on Monday that the district attorney overseeing the case, Fani Willis, had engaged in a clandestine, which Erin, when he said it was like clandestine.
Oh, no, I thought you would just say that they really were being heavy on the Klan part of it.
Also that too. That Fani had engaged in a clandestine relationship with the special prosecutor she hired to help handle it. They're accusing Willis of throwing $650,000 of business to a dude she allegedly had a relationship with. Now, it's funny how specific some of the claims are. For when the Trump lawyer who filed them provided no proof of the relationship and no proof supporting his other claims. They claim that not only she threw him business, but then as a couple, they took Caribbean vacations with the money, again, with nothing backing up their claims. But it doesn't matter, Erin, because this story has been all over cable news. The assertion has been made, and now they got to prove that it's not true.
Yeah, it's part of the public record now.
Yep.
It is a court filing. Okay, so we're waiting on an actual reputable news organization to report out the allegations in this. And I think that this is a really great example of a story that is that should be approached with a hearty dose of side-eye and criticism and awareness of the various isms that could be going into why this story is a thing in the first place. It does smell a little bit like the beginnings of what is known as a rat fuck.
Yep.
which is where a negative story that contains small kernels of truth, but an overblown negative story based on tiny kernels of truth is released into the public. And then by the time that story is corrected to what it really is, the public has already gotten the impression that the original story is true. So like a really good example of what that media strategy is, that kind of Karl Rove, everybody knows who that fucker is. Karl Rove kind of pioneered this tactic, and it's very dirty. What happened to California Representative Katie Hill? When stories initially came out that led to her resignation from Congress, they really overblew what actually happened. By the time the facts came out, it was a lesser version of the original story, the original allegation. But by that point, her image was already damaged. It didn't really matter. And she needed to resign from Congress, which I'm still kind of mad about, if I'm going to be honest.
Totally.
I'm still kind of mad about it. So we just have to be wary of the fact that it does seem that every time a Black woman is involved with a prosecution or opposition to Donald Trump, there's some sort of racist or sexist story that comes out, or a story that is at least motivated partly by racism or sexism, or a story that relies on racism and sexism in the public to get legs. And this is what this looks like to me. Again, we're waiting on more reporting to back it up. I'm not one of those people who just blanket disbelieves everything, but I am skeptical.
But we do want to see something other than the guy defending Trump's partner in crime said so.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Which is where we're at right now.
And if you are nervous, there was a story on the Daily Beast earlier this week about how this doesn't actually threaten the case in Georgia. If the allegations are true, I would encourage our listeners to check that out if you feel like you need to be talked down. But we're going to move on to Harvard ousting its president, Claudine Gay, and the sort of isms that fueled that story. So not unlike the Fani Willis situation, which sounds fishy and should be looked at critically, there was some drama at Harvard over the holidays. Alyssa, I'm just going to ask this question. Is Harvard the most annoying Ivy?
Without question.
It is absolutely so much more annoying than every Ivy.
It's like, oh my God, they all need to go into therapy or something.
Like, first of all, Yale would never.
Ever.
I mean, Yale's annoying too. Yale's annoying too, but Yale would never. It's like
give
Harvard.
Me them Bulldogs.
Come on, calm down. President Claudine Gay of Harvard resigned after speaking in a congressional hearing on anti-Semitism on campus and subsequently getting attacked by conservatives like the aforementioned Bill Ackman for allegedly plagiarizing when she was a student. So plagiarism, bad, right?
Bad. It's like the only rule in academia, isn't it? It's like, just don't do this.
Don't plagiarize. I know. People even like look the other way for like really egregious examples of like, you know, sexism and favoritism and politics playing and stuff. And yeah.
Also, wait, just unrelated but related. Claudine Gay, also a great example of never use the Harvard lawyers and get your own crisis comms team when you're going before Congress. Yeah, definitely. She didn't do great in front of Congress, and that seems to have fueled anger from the right wing. And after I would say right-leaning but reputable publication, the Washington Examiner, uncovered a bunch of instances of her plagiarizing. Again, her plagiarism was like no quotation marks. Right.
But the sources...
Still not good. Still supposed to know better.
Right. Like, but the sources were cited in notes. Like, it wasn't as though... But she should have, like, been more careful. That's literally something you learn. You learn how to do that in, like, middle school when you're first writing book reports. So it did turn out after she stepped down from her position at Harvard that it was completely a conservative movement. It was an effort by a group of people led by Christopher Rufo, who is a sort of conservative gadfly who has been leading the charge on getting like people like Claudine Gay kicked out of their jobs. Christopher Rufo is really not saying the quiet part quiet at all. He's just saying the whole thing loud. He has said that he was asked in an interview, how much credit do you think you deserve for Gay's resignation? And he said, I've heard that it never hurts to take the credit because sometimes people don't give it to you. Dude, that is a thing that women should be telling each other. Men do not need to be taking more credit. He's fine. You are not the intended audience for the advice. You need to take more credit because people don't give it to you. Lean out, Christopher.
All the way.
Lean out. Okay. And then the quote goes on, but this was really a team effort that involved 3 primary points of leverage. First was the narrative leverage. This was done primarily by me, Christopher Brunet, and Aaron Siberium. Second was the financial leverage, which was led by Bill Ackman and other Harvard donors. And finally, there was the political leverage, which was really led by Congresswoman Elise Stefanik's masterful performance with Claudine Gay at her hearings. When you put those 3 elements together, narrative, financial, and political pressure, and you squeeze hard enough, you see the results that we got today, which was the resignation of America's most powerful academic leader. I think that this result speaks for itself. Later in that interview, Christopher Rufo said, my primary objective is to eliminate DEI bureaucracy in every institution. Oh, okay.
It's about here we go.
Okay. There we go. That's what's called the nut graph. In every institution in America, and to restore truth rather than racialist ideology as the guiding principle of America. It was absolutely not fueled by racial animus. Okay. Yes. You just said that you just said it was. It had nothing to do with her race or sex and everything to do with her merit, her competence, and her failure to lead. Something tells me that if Larry Summers had been president of Harvard and he had said the exact same things that Claudine Gay said at that hearing and had plagiarized the exact same amount of things, he would not have been chased with such gusto.
And here's what is so really lame about everything that happened at Harvard. One, Claudine Gay had only been president for 6 months, and she had survived the hearing. I mean, largely the corporation was behind her. And so they were like, wait, we're not done. Let's get this plagiarism thing. I mean, it's just so basic.
Yeah. Well, here's another funny detail about Christopher Rufo. Christopher Rufo claims he has a degree from Harvard, but he actually doesn't.
So he's plagiarizing his degrees?
No. He's fabricating. He's not fabricating. He's fudging.
Right.
Fudging is what they call this. He went to Harvard Extension School. So he is as much a Harvard graduate.
Stop yourself.
Yeah. He's as much a Harvard graduate as Tyra Banks is. Remember how Tyra Banks would say that she was a Harvard graduate on America's Next Top Model? And people were like, you went to the extension program.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just like a funny little button on this. Now let's go back to Bill Ackman. So
because
Bill Ackman,
this is the best part. This is the part.
This is the part where it's like, oh, now we know what this is all about. Even though Christopher Rufo said what it was all about, now we know what it was all about. And also when people do the exact same things as Claudine Gay, if they are not a Black woman who has angered people on one side of the Israel war in Gaza, then it doesn't count. Okay, so Bill Ackman's wife is sort of a celebrity professor. I think for whatever reason, wasn't she like running around with Brad Pitt a few years ago?
Something like that.
She was a professor at MIT, and Business Insider discovered that she had plagiarized several passages in her dissertation, some of which were from Wikipedia. And the plagiarism... Wikipedia. The plagiarism and they did, they know that it was from Wikipedia because they looked at the archival, because Wikipedia can be edited constantly. They went back and they looked up what was archivally posted on Wikipedia at the time that she had written her dissertation, and it matched the words that she used in her dissertation. So you can look up edit history and stuff like that, and that's what they did, and they found that she had lifted from Wikipedia at the time. Unlike Gay, Ackman's plagiarism was a little bit closer to the definition of plagiarism that most people think of, which is lifting words and not giving credit to their author at all. So
stealing ideas.
Stealing ideas. So quotation marks, no citation, just like words taken that were not hers and put in her paper and attempting to be passed off as hers. When that story came out, rather than being chastened as he should have been, Bill Ackman doubled down, made some wild accusations at people who thought that Ackman's offenses were comparable to Gay's. They absolutely were, and they were worse. And made this, I think Ackman also accused people of being anti-Semitic if they thought that his wife was doing plagiarism, and he said his wife was...
you gotta stop. like people like that, it's like, oh my God, you're hurting so many different causes when you say something so ignorant and untrue. It's like shocking in this moment that he would, like, I was it's so disgusting.
It's just like, Bill, shut up. just shut up.
Stifle.
Homer Simpson back into the bushes. You have been got. And yes, his wife is absolutely fair game. She is an academic who is close to somebody who led the charge to get another academic ousted for plagiarism. I
mean, she had, Erin, it was something like 28 instances of it.
Yeah. And Claudine Gay, I think there was like 40 instances.
Right. I mean, neither good, but
there should be zero. Should be zero instances of plagiarism. I was also kind of confused, like, how widespread is plagiarism in academia?
It feels widespread.
I feel like the people that I know that work in academia take it very seriously and would never do anything that they thought could endanger their jobs. And like, I remember being in college and they were like, we've got a plagiarism machine. We'll be able to tell if you copy things. Like,
as a junior who was always stoned at the University of Wisconsin, I knew how to fucking cite my sources. Because you know what I did? That's why I'm saying some people don't deserve the internet. I had to use a pen and paper and write them down as I went.
Yeah. Got to.
But also now, this is the thing. This is such an example of people who just have too much fucking money and, may I add, time on their hands, because now he's going after everyone at MIT. He's going to prove that all the people at MIT plagiarized. Therefore, it's not a big deal. However, then how retroactively does that work for Claudine Gay? Because if what he's saying is,
but everybody
it
does
happens.
Oh, God. That was such a gross...
That is cardio. What he is doing is cardio. It is so much activity.
He really is really doing some cardio. And also, like, the other people at MIT had nothing to do with the Business Insider story being, like, why not just, like, run all of Business Insider through a plagiarism machine? I'm going to bet he's not going to find very much because I think Business Insider is a reputable publication where people don't plagiarize. But yeah, it's pretty wild. But Bill Ackman has taken to Twitter and he's written so many words.
But can I tell you something too? Can you imagine, like, just anyone whose first thought is like, I'm going to take to Twitter in this day and age? It's like, come on.
I mean, Twitter has really become a place where men who have been driven mad by failure and rejection go
to get 0 likes
to validate their self-delusion. Like, instead of facing reality and being like, everybody seems to be mad at me and nobody likes me, they're like, no, I'm going to engage with this alternate reality that tells me that I'm doing everything great and I don't need to change anything. I'm a trendsetter. Everyone wants everybody wants the Cybertruck. People want to watch my dumb basement Tucker Carlson show. Like, it's all just this little angry hive of men who are reinforcing each other's worst qualities that are further and further from what regular human people in the meat space think. But, whatever.
So there we are. Bill Ackman. Now you are all, poisoned with knowledge of Bill Ackman too.
I mean, I will say that he moved up several spots on the people to eat first list after we start eating the rich.
Also, he gets several weasels.
He's such a fucking weasel.
He's like almost 5 out of 5 on the weasel scale.
Billionaires shouldn't exist, and he's such a great example of just like, he's such a whiny little bitch. Okay. Let's see. We have to talk about, speaking of whiny little bitches, Donald Trump has been in court this week. Let's briefly talk about what
exhausting. No, this is so quick. Everyone just needs to understand everything. Don't you, Erin, just feel like everything you're watching on television or reading in the news is just like something masquerading as something else? Like, I actually listened to most of this hearing yesterday. So the federal appeals panel expressed deep skepticism on Tuesday toward Donald Trump's argument that he can't be prosecuted for trying to overturn the 2020 election, raising the potentially extreme implications of absolute presidential immunity. So, okay. First,
that court, that sound that you can access is insane. Like, it is some of the craziest sound I've ever heard from a courtroom. And it's
crazy.
And it's not just because Donald Trump's lawyer, his voice sounds like glass in a blender with a robot talking through it.
Or RFK Jr. I genuinely got confused when I was listening. I was like, wait, is he being represented by RFK Jr.? Like, I heard they were suddenly friends, but like, is this what happening?
These people have been like gargling colloidal silver or something that they learned about on like a fringe podcast about not getting vaccinated. Like, it's great. What is up with that? I'm sorry. It's a cheap shot to make fun of the guy's voice, but he seems like a bad person.
But we're only hearing the audio, and the audio is also a bit grainy. So, like,
yeah, it sounds like
it's all painting the picture of the chaos that is happening in front of this. It sounds like
a Nokia phone that's too close to a microwave, and you're trying to listen to someone talk, and they sound like scary. Anyway.
Yes. No, so here's why this whole thing is actually, because it kind of, you know, you're like, well, should presidents, like, if you listen to the arguments and you're just like a normal person, which I am, I'm like, oh, this is very confusing. Here's why it's not confusing. They are trying to obfuscate, they are trying to muddy the following. So, Erin, typically, historically, former presidents enjoy broad immunity from lawsuits for actions taken as part of their official White House duties. Makes sense. But because here's why this is an issue. And Trump's lawyers are trying to confuse people with this. But because no former president before Trump has ever been indicted, this is the issue. No other president's been indicted. Trump has been indicted. So courts have never before addressed whether that protection extends to criminal prosecution. So that is the kernel around which all of this chaos is swirling. And I have to tell you, the judges, quite interesting. I mean, a colorful group. One said, so let me get this right. As part of your argument, could a president order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival? Because that is an official act and order to SEAL Team 6. And the judge, and what people can't be bought in by is that Trump's attorneys and they are trying to seem as if they're altruistic and that they're protecting all other presidents from being sued, right? From being brought up on charges. Niet. No other president has been indicted. And so that is why this is all jiggery fucking pokery.
But Donald Trump's lawyers were like, yes, he should be allowed to use SEAL Team 6 to assassinate somebody.
That too. And that was also disturbing.
And the only way he could go to trial or be in trouble is if he is impeached and convicted, which is nowhere written down. Literally nowhere. That in order for somebody, like, they are trying to establish a legal precedent that being elected president is like getting designated a Make-A-Wish kid. No, you're like a Make-A-Wish kid who can do whatever crimes. You are a one-person purge. So next time we elect a president, we got to elect the person that we're like, does this person seem inclined to send a firing squad to the Supreme Court or no? Because they're not going to get in trouble. Like, theoretically, a president could kidnap the wives and children of every member of the Senate and hold them hostage and say, I'm holding them hostage until my term is up. And then I'm going to kill all my political rivals and the Senate can't do anything, or I'm going to assassinate their families. And that is because, and then the Senate wouldn't impeach them. So then when he gets out of office, I mean, I feel like I'm writing legal strategy for President Trump.
What you're writing is the pilot episode to a show I couldn't watch because it would give me nightmares.
I mean, it's a pilot episode to current day in Ecuador. Like, it is literally, I mean, seriously, it's not to make light of it. I think that they captured they captured the people that were spearheading the chaos. But that is literally the argument that Donald Trump's legal team is making.
And so, and here's the here's where we find ourselves. Judge Tanya Chutkan rejected this immunity claim last month. The Supreme Court was like, we want no part of this, and declined to get involved. However, they appealed it to this panel of judges. Now, it is possible if whatever the decision is, could likely ultimately still get appealed up to the Supreme Court. So this is some high stakes hot potato here, Erin.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Also, another thing that I didn't hear them bring up in regard to this wild courtroom appearance on Tuesday is like, okay, so impeachment is supposed to cover high crimes and misdemeanors, which is why the alleged forthcoming impeachment of Joe Biden is ridiculous because he hasn't done any high crimes or misdemeanors. And the alleged the impeachment that never was, like a fart in the wind, of Judge Janet Protasewicz in Wisconsin also came and went because legal experts who were very conservative were like, she hasn't done any crimes. Anyway,
no crimes present.
Yes, exactly. And Secretary Mayorkas, we're seeing. Oh
God, that started today.
Yeah, members of Congress really, really going deep, deep, deep into their own puckered asses to pull out reasons to impeach Mayorkas, who has not done any high crimes or misdemeanors. So that's the standard for impeachment, right?
All while, by the way. Still not clear the government's not going to shut down in a couple weeks.
Right. Doing literally nothing.
Do your job.
No,
you have
God.
one job. Keep the government open. Get out of this.
Federal officials are essentially running their own Twitter shows on the taxpayer dime. They have Fox News contracts that are paid for by the taxpayers. It is fucking ridiculous. They're not doing anything to help anybody. But okay, high crimes and misdemeanors. Yeah. High crimes and misdemeanors. Okay, so then that means that the president so if he doesn't get impeached, he can't be prosecuted criminally outside of the presidency if he is not impeached and convicted, according to this argument. Right. Following it, impeachment is for high crimes and misdemeanors. Can the president can he just do a bunch of low-level illegal things?
That's what they're saying. That's
forever, and he'll never ever get in trouble because there's no mechanism for him. Can he do sub-felony? Can he just assault and battery, but non-aggravated, or can he do hit and runs with his car, parked cars
Trump
with no injuries?
He has said he could have, shot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue and no one would come for him. And they're trying to prove that true.
Well, I guess if a lawyer argued that the discharge of the gun was accidental and the crime wasn't a high crime, then he totally gets out of jail for it. It's so stupid. I'm so tired of these Airbud lawyers. There's no rule that says a president can't. Oh, so stupid. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the fight over abortion rights beyond the state of Florida. So over the break, I hate this story.
It's awful.
I'm psyching.
It's criminal. That's just how I feel. It's fucking criminal.
It's criminal, and it makes me feel crazy in the way that the Jeffrey Epstein story makes me feel crazy.
I hate that story.
These people do not think of women as human beings. And I'll go into my ridiculous spiraling conspiracy theory at the end, because I know that's why people listen to the show, for my unhinged ranting. Okay. Idaho and Texas are appealing to the Supreme Court over a federal guideline by the Biden administration that requires hospitals to provide medical care to pregnant women who go to the emergency room for emergency abortions. So the federal law that they're dealing with is the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act, known as EMTALA, which allows hospitals that use federal Medicare dollars and Medicaid dollars, aka most hospitals, to stabilize people in emergencies regardless of their ability to pay. Now, reproductive rights advocates say this should apply to abortions, but anti-abortion advocates, of course, don't agree because they do not believe that women are people. It's unclear what's going to happen as a result of the case, but over the break, the Fifth Circuit Court ruled that Texas law supersedes any federal guideline that requires hospitals to provide emergency abortion care. So that the standard that emergency rooms in Texas need to use is the standard set by Texas law, not the standard set by federal guidelines, which seems not okay. Doesn't the Constitution say, isn't there a supremacy clause in the Constitution?
There is a supremacy clause in the Constitution.
It's right up toward the beginning. So even if you gave up reading the Constitution after 6 articles, you got to the supremacy clause where federal law trumps state law.
Are they not taking the Medicare dollars?
Or Medicaid dollars. I think
any of it. Fucking give the money back.
I don't think there are very many Medicare patients going to the ER with emergency abortion needs.
Fair enough. You never know.
Yes, I do know this. I do know that there are probably Medicaid patients going to the ER needing abortions. Anyway, the three of the judges on the Fifth Circuit that agreed with this argument were all appointees of Republican presidents. I believe there were 2 Trump appointees and a George W. Bush appointee on the panel. So that this needs to be heard, I believe, by the full Fifth Circuit. But in the meantime, the Supreme Court did not put a stay on that ruling. And so for now, if you're a woman in Texas and you're pregnant and you go to the ER and you are in a state of crisis, but your crisis does not meet the standard that Texas state law sets for what qualifies as a life-saving abortion, they're just going to let you get sicker and sicker until you're about to die. And then they're going to try to save you.
And Erin, where is there another example on this fucking planet, in this country, where you walk into an emergency room and they're like, we're not going to help you. Like this is so fucking crazy to me that they have carved out one exception, and it is only for women who are pregnant. And it says, we will not help you. Like that is, or we'll keep you here until we have decided you have reached such a point of decline that you'll die. But like, I don't even know, in that example, Erin, does it can they do the abortion? Like, how documented does your near death have to be for the poor doctor to feel like he's not going to be sent to jail for this?
Exactly. And something that this country already has like an abysmal maternal mortality rate, like abysmal, embarrassing, horrifying, especially for Black women. And a lot of maternal mortality happens in the context of people not being able to get the pregnancy care that they need or the postpartum care that they need. And laws like this endanger that and make it even worse. I was doing some napkin math this week, Alyssa.
Oh, and yes. Let's talk about it.
I was looking, I need to be stopped just in general. But I was doing some napkin math about maternal mortality because I just was curious about how it compared to like other dangerous jobs. And I'd heard the stat thrown around that to be pregnant, to have a baby is more dangerous than being a cop. Just statistically, if you are pregnant, you are more likely to die than you are if you were a police officer suiting up and going off to work.
So you're more likely to die.
You're more likely to die if you're a pregnant woman in America.
Something that's been happening since the beginning of time, but now has become highly fatal, and then you are.
It's always been highly fatal around the world. Around the world, the maternal mortality rate is something like 230 per 100,000 births. It's egregious. In the U.S., it's I think now between 20 and 30 per 100,000 births. But the mortality rate for police officers on the job in the most recent year that I could find was 8 in every 100,000.
So people who go fight crime with people who may be armed are less at risk than a woman in America who gets pregnant.
Who goes through childbirth. Yep. It's gross. And, but yeah, no, good. We should stop before every football game and honor the officers, the police officers, when women are actually the fucking warriors in this country, but whatever. Yeah, it's gross. And places like Texas and Idaho are making things worse. And they're fighting tooth and nail in the courts to preserve their right to decide when and how women should die, essentially.
Basically.
Wow.
This is a fucking bummer.
It's gross. Yeah. After the Fifth Circuit ruled on the Texas law, Idaho scurried its little weird-shaped butt to the Supreme Court and asked for dispensation to enforce its similar abortion ban, and now it's doing that too. My tinfoil hat theory is these states don't want women living in them. They don't want women of reproductive age.
They want more and more babies.
Well,
it's very they're
but this feeds into this sort of very dark theory that what they want is to force women to get pregnant, do nothing to help them to make motherhood an appealing economic choice or even a possible economic choice, force people to give birth into a situation where it's just not tenable. essentially force women to give their children up for adoption.
Yeah.
Who's going to adopt those kids? Well, fundamentalist families are going to adopt those kids, indoctrinate them into white Christian nationalism, and that's how we, move into our glorious future.
Yikes.
This is an unhinged rant. I understand.
But here's the thing: it's not actually unhinged.
Yeah,
like it would be less scary if it were unhinged. But there's actually like a very strong thread of logic that runs through the argument.
Yeah, I mean, season 2 of This Land is an incredible.
Yeah, it's ICWA. Yeah.
I think of it almost every day. It's about the adoption industry specifically as it interacts with Native American communities. And it's really, if you haven't listened to it, you have to listen to it.
It's incredible.
It will live rent-free in your head forever. But yeah, I think that these laws are just a cruel means to an end. On one hand, they believe that women should be punished like Eve in the Bible for existing. And the second thing is, I think that there are states that are like, yeah, well, if you might need reproductive care, you're probably going to vote for Democrats. So we don't want you living in our state anyway, because women are much more likely to vote for Democrats than men. And the gap is only widening as the Republican Party gets more brutal and cruel toward people with reproductive capability. And then the third one is they just want to feed some babies into our unregulated $1 billion adoption system.
Man.
Yeah. It's gross. I'm sorry.
Bleak.
I hate this story.
No, it's but we got it. Look, it's not every day do you get the chance to talk about what's happening in Idaho. And it's important that we talk about it, but it is fucking bleak.
Idaho should not be driving the boat. I'm sorry. How much is Idaho contributing economically to this country overall? It should not be driving the ship like this. No. It shouldn't be.
No.
And it's really ridiculous that these states that have very small populations where very specific interests are hugely overrepresented, but they still get equal representation in the Senate, are able to completely drive the way that policy works in this country, especially as it pertains to women's bodies, to the female body, to the uterus, to reproduction. It's fucking weird is what it is.
Yeah.
It is weird. Yeah, weird and creepy. Okay, let's end the news on, I was thinking about this over the break because, I'll just get into it. We're going to do a little kind of news topper called Does This Stupid Bullshit Matter?
Yeah.
So every week in the news, especially during election years, there are headlines that I think everybody who follows along can agree fall into the category of stupid bullshit. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about Obama's tan suit. Stupid bullshit. Melania's dumb jacket. Stupid bullshit. She's an asshole, but that was a stupid bullshit news cycle. The stories don't really have anything to do with policy or directly reflect the day-to-day lives of Americans or reflect what's actually driving Congress or local and state governments or whatever, but they're easy to understand and everybody has an opinion on them. And oftentimes they're just some silly thing that somebody said or did to get a reaction or to get some headlines. But sometimes I think beyond the initial stupid bullshit, they sort of matter because they say something about the person underlying the bullshit. So without further ado, we're going to take a look at some of the stupid bullshit from the last couple weeks and reflect on whether it actually matters or if it's just fun and mean to talk about. Alyssa, I'm going to start.
Yeah.
Our girlie, Lauren Boebert, Grandma of the Year 2024, 36-year-old Grandma of the Year 2024. Lauren Boebert is doing, Lauren Boebert is sponsoring a new exhibition of Basquiat's lesser known works in Denver. And no, she's not doing any of that. Lauren Boebert is doing things that Lauren Boebert does.
She's Boeberting. She's just Boeberting.
She and her ex-husband, Jason Boebert, were the subject of an investigation after a physical fight between the two on Saturday evening. According to one of Boebert's aides, so take this with a grain of salt, the lawmaker had gone to her ex's house to pick up one of their sons, the Daily Beast reported. So during this visit, there was a physical interaction where Boebert pushed Jason as he attempted to hug her. Okay, not great.
No.
I don't do it. Later that evening, the situation escalated. They met at a restaurant called The Miner's Claim. M-I-N-E-R, not M-I-N-O-R, like the person Jason Boebert allegedly showed his penis to. The aide described Jason Boebert's behavior at the restaurant as aggressive and disrespectful. And then, according to reports, Lauren Boebert put her hand on his face and pushed his face away. I've also seen a report that she hit him, but I don't want to whatever. There was hand-face content.
Hands were flying.
She threw hands. She set hands. She did something. Jason Boebert then called the police, saying he was a victim of domestic violence. Then Lauren Boebert called the police, saying she didn't do the domestic violence and she was willing to speak to an officer. Nobody got arrested. Does this stupid bullshit matter?
Okay. So first, she is like a living, breathing, walking Maury Povich episode. Mm-hmm. But why it matters is simply because, she should not be allowed to have a gun.
She shouldn't be allowed to have a car. I feel like she would. She
should not be able to operate heavy machinery, and she should not have a gun. That is why it matters for no other reason other than those two things.
If I was a member of Congress or a staffer in Congress or a reporter working on the Hill, I would not necessarily feel safe working in close proximity to her. She does not seem to be...
She's unhinged.
She is...
No impulse control.
Exactly. There is something... she has no impulse control and a sort of... It's very weird. I mean... Between the hand job story and this story,
impulse control.
it's just like this person shouldn't be a member of Congress. If this person were a teacher in a public school, they would be fired.
Yes. She's making laws in DC. She's the worst.
It's just real bad. I mean, come on, Colorado. I mean, the reason this story matters is because it helps paint a complete picture of how unfit this person is for office and how off the rails the Republican Party has gotten. But it's, I don't know. I think it matters a little bit.
It matters a little bit because it shows that she's got no impulse control.
Yeah, which is troubling. Okay, so does this stupid bullshit matter, Alyssa? Nikki Haley claimed that she has black friends and that's why she's got bad opinions about the Civil War that are wrong.
Erin.
While defending, she okay, she was asked about the Civil War. She refused to say that slavery was the main thing that caused it. She defended herself when she was confronted about that by saying, I had black friends growing up. Does this stupid bullshit matter?
You know why it matters to me? Because I actually, not in the grand scheme of things, but I had always personally had some modicum of respect for her because she did take down the Confederate flag. She was the Confederacy is bad. And she just undermined all of that by not being able to just be it was about slavery. I think she literally said in some cleanup she tried to do about this that she's a post-slavery thinker because she has black friends. And all of those things are very dumb answers. And while I think she's probably the least dumb of the Republicans who could end up president, this was girl, please. So it only matters because it lowers. She actually had done something decent, and now it's fuck off.
I want to see the internal GOP polling on how many people will abandon the party if prominent Republicans admit that slavery was the main cause of the Civil War. What's the internal polling on the Confederacy and how carefully do people need to tiptoe around? How many people are single issue Confederacy voters out there? Because I feel like it's a non-zero number. Which it happened look, the Civil War happened a really long time ago, and people that are still sore about it, I guess I don't
stop.
know. You get
a new cause.
I think they did. And I think that cause is Donald Trump. He is the haunted house in which the ghost of the Confederacy throws plates against the wall with ketchup going down. Been thinking a lot about poltergeist lately. I think when my daughter turns 12, she's gonna make a poltergeist. I can just sense it.
Oh, yes, she will.
She's going to. She's too emotional. She's a Scorpio. It's just...
Can't
much.
wait.
Okay.
You'll have to send her out to Aunt Alyssa.
I think it'd be cool to have a poltergeist if I could tame it but I also think it'd be cool to have like a pet wolf, and I'm not going to do that.
Well, it's like in Ghostbusters when there were certain ghosts that were like kind of came out okay and they were funny.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll try to mold the poltergeist it's the TikTok algorithm. So it's only giving me good destruction. Okay. Does this stupid bullshit matter? This is my favorite stupid bullshit of the week.
Okay, I actually didn't understand this one at first, so please go ahead.
Okay. So Mayra Flores is a Republican candidate for office in Texas. She's running to represent the 34th district in Texas. She is a Mexican-American woman who loves to post on social media. She loves to post pictures of food on social media. But it turns out as of last week, actually the pictures of food that she's posting and claiming that she made are not pictures of food that she made. They are pictures she stole. One of the food photos she stole, she captioned, "The ranch life with family is the best." And it was a picture of cornflower gorditas cooking over a wood-burning fire pit. But the photo was actually stolen from a Guyana tourism Facebook page. Not even like a Mexican tourism. That's Guyanese food, girl. That's not even whole different continent. My sister in Christ. In another post, she shared a photo of eggs and tortillas and claimed she was a proud Latina who knows how to cook, and adding that homemade Mexican food tastes better from a gas stove, except that photo was ripped from another source and originally appeared on Facebook in 2021 by Isabel magazine. And when confronted, she deleted one of the posts and said she didn't mean to cause confusion. But here's why I think the stupid bullshit might matter, Alyssa, not to taint your answer. But in the past, Flores criticized First Lady Jill Biden, who once made a public appearance where she was helping prepare Mexican food with voters. Flores said, "Democrats think that by giving us tacos, playing Latin music, that's all it's going to take for us to vote for them. It's not." So she's in the past criticized Biden for being inauthentically contributing or participating in Mexican culinary culture when she herself has been stealing photos. Does this stupid bullshit matter? Your point about why it low key matters, yes. But here's the most basic reason. It takes me back to being young, Erin, when my mother would say, "Alyssa Mendy Mastromonaco, if you lie about the small things, why would I believe you on the big things?" Yeah. Sorry, it tracks. Like, you fucking lie about where your food posts on Instagram come from, and I'm supposed to think that you're telling the truth when you're running for office? Like, I'm just saying, lying is lying. It's just weird. Like, lies that don't serve... Like, that's just, and what she doesn't get is that what would actually probably make her page funny is if she was like, "I'm a proud Latina who can't cook, and here's my attempt at it." Like, that would get engagement. It would be sticky content. But no, instead she's just, because you know what? It's like, Erin, when you go to someone's food page, right? And they're cooking something and it's perfect. That's like a scroll, unless it's Ina Garten because she's perfect. But like, or Deb Perlman. Deb Perlman. But like anybody else, it's like, come on. And so anyway, I'm just like giving her some free advice. It's like, girl, start a TikTok. It's just like where you do. It's just like she's so defensive and like, well, I'm good at cooking and look at the evidence. It's like, except it turns out you're not. You're a liar. I think the stupid bullshit matters in this case because it is a reflection of like a deeply weird character flaw that I would not want in public. Yeah, lying about little things that like. Save up your lies, girl. Save them up. Yeah, use them for something good. Use them to get out of a speeding ticket. You know, you've got your period. You've got diarrhea. I get that. That's fine. Lie about it. But I have my period. Yeah. So I think this stupid bullshit matters. I hope she doesn't get elected. She seems like super weird.